It would take me hours, if not days, to convey to you the atrocities and brutality of this regime. But also, I want to convey to you the story of courage and determination of the Libyan people from all walks of life to have a better country to live in. I would like to highlight a few stories that I witnessed, and many of you probably witnessed. In 1970, Gaddafi called a conference and invited intellectuals, journalists, and activists to convene, and they were hoping for the best. They were so excited during that time that they would be part of the nation building and they would be part of the consultation how to run the country. But in fact, turned to be one of Gaddafi's nasty tricks. It was to identify those people who usually have different opinion and have better opinion for how to run the country. So it wasn't what they were hoping for, but it turned to be identification session. He wants to know who is next target or future targets. Within 3 years after that meeting, as we all know, he introduced the Cultural Revolution. And during that tough period, he abandoned the constitution of the country. He dismantled all the civil societies. And at the same time, he eliminated the cultural Libyan knows about it and lived about it and tried to merge and keep. Those activists who met him 3 years prior, either exiled, jailed, or killed. Much of the dictatorial regimes, they will segment the society and they will target them segment by segment. And was the next target to Gaddafi was the student body. So he directed his forces to simulate the student he was trying to his ideas and his theories, but without a name. The student already rejecting his method, they're already rejecting the military rule of the country. And to punish them, in 1975, introduced the military service. And we were happy to participate. We thought that's what the country's call for, and that's part of our duty as citizens. But it turned to be, it's a punishment. And he introduced it in the middle of the school academic year. When the student came out of the camps, they decided to do something about that and stop that behavior or that decision. So they demonstrated, it was the first demonstration ever against the regime in 1975, on February 22nd, I remember that. And they demonstrated against the junta rule at the same time. Gaddafi did not rest. The confrontation continued with the students. In 1976, you know what happened all over the university and all over Libya? Student uprising. And they met with a brutal power, actually. In the university, he introduced his agent, secret police, with arms. They start shooting students in Jamiat Province, in Jamiat Benghazi, the Zawiya, the Bayda. And the student continued for a while until he brought a brutal force and he jailed most of the students. And from there, he got the universities and ruled by his gangs, the Rijal Thawri. 1977, April 1977, was the first time the Libyan witnessed a public execution. And it was an execution of Marhum Omar Dabouk and Muhammad bin Saud, who were students in Benghazi University, and they were directing the population by force to witness the execution. And Gaddafi was watching and witnessing the proceedings from a hotel balcony nearby the execution square. And the atrocity continued, did not stop. And one of our friends, Mr. Muhammad Hamid. Muhammad Hamid was an active person for a long time, from the kingdom duration until he passed away. And he stood and he spoke his mind against the atrocity of the regime. And one day he heard about his friend Ahmed Ghais in Tripoli was dead and killed, basically under torture. And he went to Trablus to Tripoli to attend his funeral, and he delivered a eulogy, a strong eulogy, condemning the regime crime. And the minute he arrived to his home in Benghazi, they picked him, and 3 days later they brought him in a metal welded casket, preventing even his family from have the last scene of their beloved one. And the atrocity did not stop there. They continue to discriminate the graves and pull the corpses and throw them on the sea. That's the regime the Libyan people were trying to get rid of for a long time. And the mother of all crimes, and everybody knows about it, Muslim massacre. In June 1996, 1,200 people were massacred in 4 hours by Gaddafi's gangs, which is the command of that group was Abdullah Sunusi, his brother-in-law. And they went up to the roofs of the jail, of the prison, and started shooting every single prisoner in that square of the prison were dead after 4 hours. Until now, we did not know where the mass grave is. These are just a sample of the atrocities and the brutality of this regime. And I want everybody to keep in mind, the Libyan did not stop. The jails were full. They were exiled outside their homeland, prevented from living the normal life with their family and beloved one. And as you see, an example here, if I ask everybody here, everyone in this room, if you have a friend, a brother, a neighbor, a relative, sibling, who got impacted by the brutality of Gaddafi, would you please stand up? Anybody, please. And that's a statement. That's a statement that tells you we all affected by this regime and this brutal regime for 42 years, and we never stop. إن شاء الله بعون الله إلى أن يتحرر كل شبر من الوطن، وعاشت ليبيا والمجد والخلود بشهدائنا الأبرار. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا Rashid, barakallah feek. Before we go on, I would just very much like to acknowledge, recognize our guests here. I definitely see Rita Zueda will join us here. And if you have any other guests here, definitely I don't want to basically be embarrassed here not mentioning everybody name. But I do, my dear friend here, Ashur Khayat, drove all the way from Vancouver to join us. Our next speaker, Professor Hussein Al-Fifi of the University of Washington Linguistic Arab Center. And at the talk of his, basically very much say, day one of the revolution. And literally, it's the day one of the revolution. So Hussein, would you please come forward?
Welcome to our gathering. I want to wish everyone a happy Eid Mubarak, everyone. And thank everyone for coming today. I would like to speak briefly about my trip to Libya to be with my mother who was seriously ill. The Libyan revolution of February 17th has been dubbed by some of the falling Jeans revolution, because the majority of the freedom fighters are young men, most of whom used to sleep late and then spend their time hanging out with their friends. These young men often wear jeans that sag well below their waists, thus the term falling jeans. Now, this is a term of respect for soldiers who had never touched a gun before and were ready to die for their country. To put the revolution in context, when Gaddafi took over